Hello, my name's Simon. Welcome to Bennett's Bike Social. Now, if you reach the stage in your life where you realise maybe it's not all about top speeds, and maybe it's not all about track days, maybe it's not all about touring and big mileages, and maybe it's not about riding off-road, now you might find yourself considering an Indian Scout Bobber 20. So you might be asking, what exactly is an Indian Scout Bobber 20? Well, for the first half of the 20th century, Indian was up there alongside Harley-Davidson as one of the world's best known motorcycle manufacturers. And for a while, briefly, it was even the world's biggest motorcycle manufacturer, even took part in the 1911 TT. Indian also served in the Second World War alongside Harley-Davidson. But after the war, things didn't go so well, and by 1953, production had ceased. Over the years, there have been a few attempts to resurrect the Indian name, but in 2000 the company was bought by Polaris, who are a manufacturer of ATVs and snowmobiles and also produced the Victory motorcycle range. And in 2013 Polaris unveiled an all-new Indian motorcycle, the chief range of big bore classic V-twin air-cooled tourers. And in 2015 they released the Scout. You're most likely to know the Scout name from The World's Fastest Indian, which was a movie about Burt Munro, the New Zealander who used a 1920s Scout engine to set a few land speed records at Bonneville salt flats in the 1960s. But the modern Scout is a cruiser. It's got this 1133cc liquid cooled 60 degree 8 valve double overhead cam V-twin, making around about 100 horsepower and 72 foot-pound of torque, delivered through this aluminium frame, 6-speed gearbox and belt final drive. And then we get to the Scout Bobber, which is simply a Scout with bobber styling. This cut down front and rear mudguards, low seat height and this headlight nacelle. And then finally we get to the Scout Bobber 20. I'm not quite sure where the 20 comes from, but it's a bobber with higher bars, it's got this flying seat and it's got wire spoked wheels. So now we've finally worked out what an Indian Scout Bobber 20 is. Let's go for a ride. So here we are on board Indian Scout Bobber 20. And I have to say, I'm going to have to be careful here not to break any of these speed limits too disastrously, because this engine has got some go in it. It's a bit of a thing. So it's 1133cc, 100 horsepower, 70 odd foot-pound of torque. It's a V-twin, 60 degrees, 8 valve, double overhead cam, thoroughly modern liquid cool motor in a cruiser chassis with cruiser styling. Now, I'm not normally a fan of sort of overpowered engines in cruiser chassis because they seem so at odds with the riding position. You have a sort of a clamshell riding position and then so much performance that you can just never access. To me, it's slightly frustrating. I have to say, there's two things that work in the Scout Bobber 20's favour. First of all, the engine is super flexible. So you can, you know, I mean, what are we doing here? 40 miles an hour in top gear. We're talking 1800 RPM. It's about as fast as I need to go. Yeah, that, you know, it's got no problems. There's none of that kind of clunkiness or jerkiness that sometimes you get with other sort of big cruiser V-twins. And it's a very flexible unit. It's got tons of mid-range. It's got a surprising amount of top end. To be perfectly honest, it's the kind of engine that you would feel would be at home in something like an adventure bike or a sort of conventional naked roadster. It's a good engine. I'll tell you what isn't so good though, is part of the price you pay for having this sort of low-slung cruiser styling is very limited rear suspension travel. Now the forks are conventionally sort of have a conventional amount of travel. The back end has, get this, 51mm or 2 of your English inches. That's all it's got to do, has to cope with bumps and stutters and the general rubbish that the road can throw at you. It's a hard ride, there's no getting away from it. When you hit a bump on this thing, you really, really know it, straight through your spine. But that's part of what this kind of bike is. You could have soft and wallowy suspension, I suppose, but I'd probably, you know, when you buy a bike like this, really chassis dynamic and those sort of minutiae of handling, it's not really what it's about. It's about the overall sensation. And to be perfectly honest, sitting back, plodding away and getting occasionally bumped out of the seat, kind of what the bike is about. So no real complaints there. It's actually a pretty agile thing, considering it's 256 kilos, which is no lightweight. It's got pretty agile steering, which it's actually conventional sort of steering geometry, really. It's got 29 degrees of wake and it's got around 120 millimeters of trail. So it's a very, very long wheelbase. Its wheelbase is longer than, I don't know, your average BMW R1250 RT. But the actual steering is not too bad at all, which is just as well. It's got Pirelli MT60 RS tyres on it, that kind of flat track, knobbly style tyre, which in itself is, I mean, it's quite a good piece of rubber, that. I quite enjoy them. The only problem with this, though, is there's a 130 section at the front and a 150 section at the rear, so it's on 16-inch rims. So I love the styling, because I really don't like cruisers that have got those sort of narrow, skinny wheels. But these things are sort of more, I think they call them cat squashes in the States. But it does give you this strange sensation when you look at the bike that you could interchange the front and rear wheels and you wouldn't miss out an awful lot. And then what else have we got? Well, in terms of the riding position, it's really, really comfortable. Now, normally, again, with sort of conventional bobbers, I think the point with a bobber is to have slightly lower riding position with the bars down here somewhere. Because this being the Scout Bobber 20, it gets these sort of higher handlebars here, which are actually really natural. You just sort of sit back in the bike. This floating seat is nicely cupped. You have a little bit of support at the back. Hello, fella. You don't slide around too much. And it actually, again, it sort of suits the dynamic of the bike. It's really, really comfortable. I'm not suggesting you could cruise across continents without too much discomfort, but you can certainly ride it an awfully long way without feeling the pain, especially at this kind of speed. Really, there's not an awful lot of pressure on you at all. So yeah, so we have a really, really nice thing. Brakes are good. I mean, when was the last time you had this? A 256 kilo motorcycle stopped by a single disc of 298 millimeters and a 2-pot sliding caliper. And yet, wow, you can brake hard enough to actually hear the front Pirelli digging in and the tread squirming. That's quite impressive. And you know, it's quite a nice view. The thing's well finished. I like this sort of sagebrush green matte finish on the tank, is quite nice. The blacked out bits are quite nice. It's got a good build quality. There's some sort of Indian logos everywhere. I guess this figure here is an I. It looks a little bit like an F, so it kind of looks like this might be Dave Grohl's bike. It looks like it's got Foo Fighters all over it. Should we turn around here? And actually turning around will give me a chance to demonstrate one of the other problems with this bike. Slightly limited ground clearance, which again, you know, I mean, the pegs go down first, but they're swiftly followed by exhausts and other bits of componentry that you really don't want dragging on the deck. Again, riding this bike hard enough to repeatedly deck it out is really not the point, because it just ends up costing you money when you grind through something you really shouldn't. So yeah, nice finish, nice riding dynamic, a thoroughly enjoyable motorcycle to ride if this is the kind of motorcycle that you want. If you judge it by sort of, you know, normal inverted commas riding dynamic criteria, you know, it's found wanting. But then we're not all the same. We all like different things. It's quite a good job too. So I could certainly carry on riding this for quite a while. It's hard to critique bikes like Indian Scout Bobber 20 because they're not bought on the grounds of things that we can easily measure. They're not bought for performance, they're not bought for horsepower, they're not bought for tank range, not really even bought for comfort. They're bought for things like looks and style, and it's about as much as how it makes you feel when it's parked in the garage or at the end of the drive as it does when you're actually riding it. So yes, to ride it, the engine is a nice balance of charisma and civility for a cruiser, and it's a nice balanced riding position. It's not going to strain your neck or dislocate your shoulders, but it might bruise your kidneys because that rear suspension is pretty hard. It's not so good over the bumps. But the important thing is it meets those sort of minimum expectations of rideability. The clutch is light, the throttle is great, the fueling is perfect, the transmission doesn't feel like it's been borrowed from a tractor. And so the price, well, the Scout Bobber 20 is £12,699. Now the standard Scout starts at £11,699, and then the Scout Bobber is £11,899. So that extra £1,000 over the base model Scout basically gets you the 16-inch wire wheels, gets you the flying seat, gets you these high handlebars, these low slung mirrors, which are a bit rubbish, but they're quite easy to swap over and have above the handlebars, even if they don't look quite as cool. It gets you this sort of headlamp nacelle, and it gets you a few other sort of cosmetic bits and bobs. And so to its rivals, well, I guess anything with the name Bobber, I suppose. So the first thing you think of is something like Motor Guzzi's V9 Bobber, which is a great little bike, but it's not really playing the same sort of game. It's an 853cc motor, it's making 55 horsepower, which is about half the claimed horsepower of this thing. It's a much lighter, it's a much shorter bike. So really, it's not quite in the same game. If you really want to get left field, you can look at something like CCM's Spitfire Bobber, which is a hand-built, bespoke, £10,000 oddity, 600cc single, making about 55 horsepower, I think. Really, the only thing that kind of qualifies it as a bobber is it's got the flying seat. Other than that, it's kind of an individual bike on its own. And much more mainstream, I suppose. Then you're thinking of things like Triumph's Bonneville Bobber, which is probably the best known bobber, which was a huge success when it was launched a few years ago. And compared to the Indian, it's a little bit cheaper. It's about £10,650, and it's a lot lighter, or it certainly feels lighter. And it's kind of more authentic in a way, because that fake air cooling, at least it pretends to be air cooled. So it's a much more kind of simple bike. And then you can take your pick from Harley's range. Really, just about anything in there you can qualify. I guess the nearest thing is the bike with Bob in its name, which is the Fat Bob. It's one of my favourite Harleys. I mean, it really is a blasting great motorcycle. It's an awesome thing, and with that sort of 1868cc motor, it just thunders along. It's got kind of wacky styling. It's a bomb blast of a motorbike, and so really that's kind of at the upper end. So in a way, the Indian kind of sits in between the sci-fi chaos of the Harley Fat Bob and the kind of the slightly more civilized, svelte, lighter, more agile Triumph Bonneville Bobber. But anyway, you can read more about the Indian Scout Bobber 20 at Bennett's Bike Social. That's www.bikesocial.co.uk. If you like this video, please click like, please subscribe for more videos like this, and thank you very much for watching.